Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for that, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Venziano?
Here.
Mr. Olden?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Somebody like to audit the bills? Oh, actually, no, wait. We have a public hearing. We have two public hearings, actually.
A notice of public hearing for fire protection contracts, Town of Patterson, County of Putnam, State of New York. Please take notice that a public hearing in New York at Patterson Town Hall, 1142 Route 311, Patterson, New York, on December 18, 2019 at 7:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard. Department number 1 for the calendar year 2020 in the amount of $865,160 and fire protection contract with the Putnam Lake Fire Department for the calendar year 2020 in the amount of $441,600, hereinafter collectively referred to as the fire protection contracts. At said public hearing, all persons interested in the subject matter thereof shall have the opportunity to be heard. Copies of the aforesaid proposed fire protection contracts are on file with the town clerk on the town's website at www.pattersonnewyork.org. The town board will make every effort to ensure that the hearing is accessible to all persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and or a special accommodation should contact the town clerk. By order of the town board of the town of Patterson.
I would ask that anybody that has any comment on the matter, if you would approach the mic and give your name for the record. Chief Nickashir, do you have any comments on the proposed contract?
Good evening, Joe Nickasher, Chief, Patterson Fire Department. We are satisfied with the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President Schultz, putting you on the hot seat.
Thank you. Rob Schultz, President of the Putnam Lake Fire Department, and we as well are satisfied with the contract.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the audience have any comments? It's just such a letdown from past years. All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would somebody now like to audit the bills?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 23 dated December 6, 2019 in the amount of $613,497.30. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers.
Here we go. Budget transfer number 39. Transferring money from various personnel services to and fro. Removing money from Justice's Personnel Services, part-time clerk, Assessor's Personnel Services, Justice Court Building Personal Services, Fire Code Officer Personal Services, Recreation Center Personal Services, for a total of $37,200. Moving it to Town Board Personnel Services, Justice Personnel Services, Accounting Personnel Services, Receiver of Taxes Personnel Services, Town Clerk Personnel Services, Buildings Personnel Services, Code Enforcement Personnel Services, Code Compliance Personnel Services, Ambulance Personnel Services, Superintendent of Highway Admin Personnel Services, and the Environmental Conservation Inspector Personnel Services, again to the tune of $37,200. I'll make a motion, we approve budget transfer number 39. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next, we have budget request, budget transfer request number 40. And this has to do with snow removal and year-end accrual charges in the highway department. We're moving money from engineering contractual, improvements in equipment and capital outlay, machinery, equipment and capital outlay, unallocated insurance contractual, employee benefits retirement, employee benefits workman's comp insurance, employee benefits health insurance. Moving money from those accounts to general repairs personnel services, snow removal personnel services, employee benefits, Social Security, employee benefits Medicare, and MTA taxes contractual. So I'll make a motion that we approve those transfers. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have budget transfer number 41, where we're moving money from the sanitation, with regard to the sanitation district number 2. Moving money from employee benefits, workman's compensation insurance, employee benefits health insurance, moving that money a little over 18,000 to MTA taxes contractual, sanitation personnel services, employee benefits, Social Security, employee benefits Medicare. I'll make a motion the town board approve budget transfer number 41. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
I just,
also believe, what?
I make one note. If
Yes.
anybody's interested in the dollar amounts, see me after the meeting. I mean, it's a ton of it, so.
So I believe we do have one more budget transfer coming. And also, so the public understands what we're doing here. Typically, every year, the town has 26 payrolls. There being 26 weeks in a year, typically. But every so often, we run afoul of there being 27 payrolls. Next year in 2020, we would end up with 27 payrolls. Because we have some additional money left over at the end of this year, we have opted to pay that 27th payroll this year rather than wait till next year. So that's why we've transferred a considerable amount of money into our payroll lines. In addition, we've had a number of storms which have really increased the cost of highway, both for road maintenance, materials, and also for overtime for the workers. That was the other part of the budget transfer. So, okay. First on my agenda, I have Putnam Lake aeration proposal. I believe the board has all seen the proposal. I put it on the agenda just to start the discussion. We have a proposal from Clean Flow. They've taken a look at the lake. They've done a little bit of analysis that we've paid for. I've lost the numbers here. But they have given us a proposal, a 3-year proposal for putting an aeration system in and also for doing enzyme treatments, what they call bioaugmentation. And the 3-year proposal would be $577,805. That does not include the aeration units would need to be housed in sheds. They would need to be insulated, actually sound barriers, and there would be an electrical hookup as well. Those would be additional charges. I don't know that, they say there's a cost savings if we use the Waterford Road location rather than using the boathouse. The savings would be about $18,000. Honestly, I don't know, once we put the shed in and did some of the other things we needed to do at Waterford Road and the limited area we have there, whether it would be really a cost savings. If it would be a minor amount, and we would be encumbering a portion of the beach area to do it, so I would just as soon leave it at the boathouse.
Are they saying it saves money because of they would save on length of?
Length of hose, setup, yeah. So, the board's had this for, a week or so, I believe. Anybody have any questions on this?
Well, I have a comment that this proposal is for aeration, right?
Yes.
It doesn't include any type of dredging for any other work that
Correct.
might be needed. So, I guess the plus side of this, what they call solution design, is that it would stir up the bad stuff and hopefully on its own, the algae or the growths and what have you would leave. If it doesn't, then we have to dredge. So we could spend over $500,000 just to do the aeration segment to this, and then we would have to get into dredging and everything that goes along with that. So to me, this is a big cost deal, and I think we have to and this is only one proposal, so I think we have to satisfy ourselves, if we were to go with Clean Flow, that there's a $500,000 benefit to doing this. And probably it may be closer to 600,000 because this does not include shed work and the electrical work, all that stuff. So, yeah, I think we have to have more conversations on this. I know they like to get started something like April. So we have a tiny little window of space. I would say that we should come back and really talk about this, and maybe even with our friends over at the Putnam Lake Advisory Board, get some input there. Because we would have to, just for this one alone, we would have to bond it or take out a loan or something.
Yeah, so we would have to bond it.
Bond it, so. Do you know, Rich, how, are we talking a 5-year bond, a 10-year bond? I mean, how, for this type of work?
That has not yet been determined, but it's a 3-year plan. So I would imagine we would have to bond it no more than 5 years because, you know, after that, we would be moving on to something else.
Okay.
So, to start on with this conversation, we have some information that would give us some confidence that this has a likelihood of working as intended, because we have another lake in Putnam County that's already used it, and the town couldn't be happier with the product. And I think that's what led us to start looking in this direction, Lake Peekskill and Putnam Valley.
Okay, ask one question.
Sure.
Are they happy with just this process, or did they have to do the dredging and?
No, they haven't done any dredging, and they also didn't want to use chemicals. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Correct.
but Sam Oliverio, the supervisor in Putnam Valley, is very against using chemicals. We have been putting chemicals in our lake to treat the algae, and it's, you know, hit or miss in terms of whether it works.
Right.
The one thing I go back to, and I think the conversation has to go back to the community to make sure that they're supportive of this. Initially, a year or so ago, when we met with Putt Lake, they, I think, emphatically came back and said, we are looking to improve the lake. We want our tax dollars and our money, our district charges, to go back to improving the quality of that lake. And this is one option that we have to look at. The aeration doesn't really kick up the water. It provides the aeration necessary for the microbial action, which is what the additive is, the microbial action, which is supposed to eat up that, you know, the organics on the bottom. So it's dredging by way of reducing the organics on the bottom. I think
Okay.
that's something to have to, you know, realize. This is much more significant a proposal than what they had in Lake Peekskill because of the size of the lake. It's like 3 or 4 times the size
About
of.
$225,000 more.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's at least twice the size of the lake and probably more than twice the number of aeration units. It's a big proposal, but based on neighbors' results, I think from my perspective, our approach should be to really talk to the Putt Lake community on this and see if this is something that they are. It's one thing for people to say, hey, I want to put money into the lake. Now, okay, now it's time. let's see if you're willing to kind of put the money where the voice has been expressed. You know, yes, it's something we're gonna have to bond. I think we have to do something out there.
Definitely.
And this seems like a reasonable approach, both environmentally speaking. We're not talking about just, you know, tearing the lake up or dumping more chemicals in. But I think this is only one piece of the puzzle. We've heard Rich talk numerous times about our stormwater retrofits that he's been working on with Russ. We have something on the agenda later that ties into this in terms of, you know, taking care of our stormwater practices, which have been hurting us. You know, we're getting runoff from the state of Connecticut that is not helping Putnam Lake. So this is not the be-all and end-all. We can't do one thing and solve all of Put Lake's problems. So I think everybody has to keep that in mind also, that this is one piece in a larger holistic approach.
So there is a part two to this. And part two is this. I've reached out to about 10 or 12 companies that do lake dredging to try to see what the feasibility is. I've had some very, very positive feedback from a couple of companies who do hydraulic dredging and say that they, you know, that something like this they would be interested in doing over a period of years. So over a period of years we could plan it out, and they would do section by section. I was hoping to have more detail for the board by now. I apologize for not, but I don't have a cost on it, and I'm still not convinced that it's, you know, going to be 100% feasible, having talked with these gentlemen who think it is, but I haven't found anybody who's actually dredged a lake using hydraulic dredging that the lake was bigger than 10 acres.
Yeah.
So, and the other part of that is they can't dredge any deeper hydraulically than 10 feet. But for most of Putnam Lake, if we could get it down to 10 feet, that would be a real home run.
Yeah.
So I am still working on that piece of the puzzle to see if there's any feasibility to just go right into hydraulic dredging over a period of time
Versus doing
versus
this?
this.
Okay.
Well,
So,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So are there any other companies that do this exact process? that
I
we
don't
can
believe there's
compare?
any other companies that do this exact process with the enzyme treatment the way they're doing it. There are other companies that'll come in, and a lot of other companies come in and put in aeration. And I've been told, I haven't located them yet, that there is another company that does a similar type of enzyme treatment, which I'm still trying to find.
So it's hard to, you've already put out an RFP or get, it's really apples and oranges.
We'd have to put an RFP out and get these people to, you know, rebid it and to follow procurement policy, and it's likely nobody else is gonna bid if we spec it out for, you know, doing the enzyme treatment with the aeration.
But I think these, the information we got so far is invaluable. The depths of the lakes and the hardness of the bottoms in the certain spots. I think that's excellent. That's whatever we use, whatever we do forward. I think it's great information to use. So that was money well spent so
Yes.
far.
yeah,
I agree.
and I think that over the last few years, that what we've been hearing is that, you know, do this algae treatment, and our esteemed colleague here mentioned it's like hit and miss. So you get something, whether it's this, the dredging, combination or something, that seems to be the way to go. That's some, you know, or a more positive step in providing a solution here, so,
We need to invest in something that we're going to get results from.
yeah.
Rich, something that is in our favor for the hydraulic dredging, you said they can only go 10 feet, but the bathymetry maps that they gave us on the study, the hard bottom areas are the deep areas, right? So the areas that they would be most effective in happen to be the shallow areas where we need it the most anyway.
Right.
So there would be some benefit to talking to them about how effective they could be in dredging, hydraulically dredging these. And the map that we gave, it's the lighter areas that were I mean, that's what you would expect, the shallow water, the the runoff coming in off our stormwater and that the muck and the sedimentation is settling out. And
It's not that
we
deep
get
to
the
begin with.
organics. Say again?
It's not that deep to begin with.
Right,
Right.
and those are the areas that have those, you know, particularly large volumes of organics, the rotting organics that are in there, you know.
And ultimately, we may want to just start off with a pilot dredging program. I would love to see how this works
I would too.
in the cove area of
Yeah.
Putnam Lake, which would then open that cove back up, because that was one of the 2 boat launches that the fire department used for years, that they've abandoned at this point because they can't get a boat in,
Which one's that?
which is down here.
Oh, okay.
And it's down by Warren Beach,
Mhm.
so.
But regardless of those approaches, I think we have to plan for the mechanism for paying for this, right? Even if it's a hydraulic dredging over the course of 5 years, let's say, you know, still scaling that so we can make sure that it's something that's affordable for the residents of Putnam Lake.
Yep.
Let's have that conversation also.
Are you comfortable with the people you're talking to provide you with, let's call it, some written information that, talking about the cost of the dredging and some, okay.
Well, I think, you know, as this progresses, I will certainly get written information and cost estimates,
Okay.
you know. Okay, next on my agenda is Thunder Ridge Pump Station. This is a project that was proposed many years ago as part of the New York City wastewater treatment upgrade program. The only solution they could come up with for dealing with the sewage treatment system that was at Thunder Ridge, which they've had chronic problems with, was to tie it into the town's wastewater treatment plant. They ran a line over to the Patterson Commons Acme Shopping Center pump station. They proposed the original design back in 2015 and approached the town with it. We actually started the process to add Thunder Ridge into the town's sewer district back in 2016. They immediately started running into one problem after another. I didn't move forward with the process simply because if we go through the whole district proceeding and get to the end, then we put them on, you know, we put them in the district, we start taxing them. And it has been since 2016 till the present that it has taken them to get all of the issues worked through. And so I was out at the startup about a week ago, and it looks like by the end of the year, they're gonna connect in. We already have a legal agreement where we can bill them until they get into the district. So it's not that, you know, we're gonna be losing money or we need to take any further action. But we do need to wrap this submission up with the controller and hope the controller's not gonna be too upset, because generally the rule is, I think, we have 30 days from the, you know, from the second order that we have to adopt to submit to the controller, which, again, we didn't do, but they'll just have to get over it. So, Counselor, you have anything to add into this? I had sent all this down to you to take a look at.
The only thing, you had asked if they needed their approval or if you just needed to give them notice. So there's 2 requirements that set off the need for approval, and one of them is if the town is incurring any debt as a result of it, and the second is if the cost to the new district participant will be more than the typical amount. So if those 2 things are in place, then you need to seek approval from the comptroller as opposed to just giving them notice of it. So I wasn't sure if the facts, if you had incurred any, if the town is incurring any debt as a result of it.
We are not incurring any debt. The capital improvements are being paid entirely by New York City. However, the cost to the typical property, I believe the controller's standards are somewhere around
Rather low.
$870,
Mhm.
right? But that's basically set up for residential property owners.
Mhm.
And this is a commercial site, which is like a whole nother animal.
Yes.
And of course, the cost at Thunder Ridge is much greater than $870, which is the other criteria.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that criteria is for a residential property.
Yes, yes.
So, I didn't know, and I don't know if you want to reach out to the controller just to get a little guidance before we do this, but, I've gone ahead and I've gotten all the paperwork done to make the full submission. The last piece of the puzzle for the town board is we actually have to adopt the resolution authorizing the submission of the application, which we have the resolution before us tonight to do. You would recommend we go ahead and do that?
I'd recommend you go ahead and do that, and we can still call the comptroller's office just to make sure, especially given the time frame that's gone by, just to give them a heads up and see if there's anything else that'll help push it along.
Okay, and maybe a little explanation to them about why it's gone on for so long.
Yes, yes.
Between the EFC funding and the DEP, and it can give you a lot more details, but
And there's a lot of parties involved. That always makes
there are a
things
lot of
take time.
parties. True. All right. That being said, I would like to introduce this resolution for the town board to authorize a submission to the New York State Controller for the extension of Hamlet Sanitary Sewer District Number 3. It's extension number 3. I've got to clarify that. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have our typical year-end resolution that authorizes the town to pay all bills and encumbrances that might arise through December 31st, 2019, our year-end resolution. I'd like to move the resolution and ask that it be entered into the minutes as though read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I would like to unfortunately add one more executive session, legal, to talk about two different projects. One is an issue to appraise the board of that came up recently where the planning board approved a project, a good project for the town, in my opinion, down south end along Route 22. And an old project has now come up to rear its ugly head and is causing us some grief on that project moving forward. And the other one is the campus at Fields Corners, because the Southeast Planning Board is moving ahead with that project. So, without objection, we'll add that to the end of the agenda.
Thanks.
Mary?
Okay, so the first item on my agenda is the Auctions International Award bid. The Highway Department had three vehicles, a wood conveyor, and some copper lighting fixtures that they no longer had any use for. So the Auction
Yeah.
International is bidding them out for us, and we've gotten some pretty good bids for them. Do you want the prices in the, do you want me to announce prices?
Well, actually, what I would do is, for the public, I would go to this and read the prices and the
Okay.
vendors.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea.
Sure. So they had a 1997 International truck. That was truck number 13. They've gotten a bid for $6,300. 1986 Chevy Blazer, truck number 43. The high bid was $1,825. They had a 2008 Ford F-250 truck number 2, $6,600 was the high bid. A wood conveyor, high bid of $4,150, and some copper lighting fixtures for $16. So I think that they did a pretty good job there. Auction Internationals, we've never gotten that much money. I think we've gotten $500 for a vehicle on there. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for sale for the Highway Department's auction items to the high bidders for Auctions International, and enter this resolution into the record as though read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what else do we have? Oh, okay, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has come out with a new way to monitor drug and alcohol testing for new employees, for pre-employment purposes, and also for inquiries annually to basically check on the drivers of the vehicles, the commercial driver's license. Sorry, this is like my forte, but you know, I'm like all over the place with this. So this has to be taken care of by January 6th. Every facility, carrier, anyone that has employees that work for them that fall under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration guidelines has to register with the clearinghouse, drug and alcohol clearinghouse database. So I'm going to make two motions here. One is the payment will need to be authorized through a voucher, which will be made payable to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and funds will be paid through an ACH transaction through the town's clearing account. These payments will need to be made for pre-employment and for annual inquiries and checking on the employees of the town to make sure, basically, just to explain this a little bit more, is they're working for someone else and they're drug tested in another place where they work, another carrier or safety sensitive position somewhere else, and they turn up to have a dirty test come in. There was really, prior to this, not having any way of knowing that, say, if I worked on the weekend for Coach Tours and they drug screened me, how would Brewster know? Unless someone picked up the phone, you know, did the right thing and picked up the phone. So that doesn't always happen. Probably never happens until this. So this would be a great way of tracking it. So I'll make a motion to make these payments to them for these annual and pre-employment inquiries through ACH transaction. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The second document pertaining to this new regulation would be a general consent form that we would have to have the new employees sign. And this is giving, and also the current employees sign when we check on them. It's basically giving us permission to run an inquiry through the database to see if they have been drug screened and if they've tested, whether or not they've tested positive or negative. So I'd like to make a motion to accept this general consent for limited queries for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Just had to throw that in there.
All right, so now we have Workman's Compensation 2020 policy. So this is a resolution to approve the acceptance of Workman's Compensation insurance. Town of Patterson received 2 quotes in response, with the lower quote being from Comp Alliance indicating a estimated total cost prior to assessment of $372,415 for the calendar years, for a total of 2 calendar years, 2020 and 2021. So I would like to make a motion to enter this resolution approving the acceptance of the Workman's Compensation insurance and enter this into the record as though read. So moved.
Second. Discussion. We don't pay this $372,000 all in one shot, do we? I mean, it's for 2020 and 2021.
No, we generally don't. At least I'm hoping they're not going to ask for it. We do have it if we do need to pay it, but again, for the public, there are 2 basic worker comp companies that will provide coverage to the town, Comp Alliance and PERMA. And we solicited proposals from both companies. We solicited both a 1-year and a 2-year proposal. The 2-year proposal that came back from Comp Alliance actually provides a 2-year policy where each year is about $10,300 less than what we paid in 2019. And overall, if we were going to a 1-year policy, it's about a $25,300 savings. If we were going to a single year with Comp Alliance, We would be saving about $25,300 a year.
The 2-year,
For the 2-year,
the 2-year.
for the 2-year plan,
As opposed to 1 year?
as opposed to 1 year. So it's a significant savings. So that's why our recommendation, both Trish and mine, was to go for the 2-year policy.
And it's paid quarterly, so it's not all upfront.
There's your answer.
There's your answer.
What?
And I said, there's your answer.
Paid quarterly. not-
Quarterly.
That's the way we've done it in the past. I'm still hoping they don't ask for the whole thing up front, but we do have it.
And if we don't, Sean will hold us up.
I'll do
There
my
you go.
best.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. D'Andriano, you're up.
All right, first item I have is the Foggingtown LLC tax certiorari. So we have a tax cert for Foggingtown LLC. The original assessment was $85,000. It was reduced to $65,000. The amount of reduction is $20,000. And the impact on the county is, for 2020, is $61.79. For the school district, is that Brewster Schools, do you know, or is it?
Yeah, BC Boosters Center.
Yes, Bruce.
Impact for the, schools is $595.64. Impact for the town in 2020 is $91.30, and 2020 special districts is $42.05. So I make a motion to approve the resolution and enter the minutes as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, I have a memo from the Patterson Fire Department from Chief Nickershire, requesting to add 2 members to the special teams for insurance purposes. So I'd like to make a motion to add Christopher Dietz and John Dietz for the Putnam County Technical Rescue Team. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And then last, I have Partners in Safety, our contract renewal. So this is our renewal for our contract with Partners in Safety for the testing for drug and alcohol. And this, I believe it includes the FMCSA stuff that Mary just talked about. So I'd like to make a motion to approve this contract and approve the supervisor to sign the contract, amount of $799. So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That is all I have.
Charles.
Okay, next we have a site plan application relative to Clancy Properties on Route 22. And we're holding cash bond, $42,350, and a escrow account of $51,441.50. Post-construction administration and completion of erosion and sediment.
Charlie, hang on a second. The train went by and made everything go.
No, there's a
haywire.
buzz. You talking about the buzz?
Yeah, just started when the train went by.
It's right there. Definitely that
Like,
one.
oops.
It's gone.
And so was the train.
Sorry. Send the bill to MTA.
That's very
There it
strange.
is.
And it's back.
Want to try this second?
It's back on right now, or?
No, I just
That's
shut it
all.
off.
Do you want to take a couple-minute recess, and I'll look through the whole system real quick? Sorry.
That's it.
Give it a test of the microphone.
Check.
Okay?
Give it a try and let's see.
We'll go with that for now.
Nobody move.
I think it's you. Every time you put those things in use,
Yeah,
it looks
no.
like it's gone.
It's something that, maybe you gotta check the wire to connect into the microphone.
That one.
Yeah, it's some, short.
Turn the
cable. Well,
That's it.
let's try it again. Looks like I'm buying the cable tomorrow.
Good job, Paul.
It's genius.
Charles, you're up.
No worries.
Well, back to where I was before I got rudely interrupted by MTA or whoever. The Clancy Properties, the town, which they just put that big building up on Route 22. So, they posted a cash bond, the amount of $42,350, and an escrow account in the amount of $51,441.50. And this was for the completion of erosion and sediment control, site improvements, as well as landscaping at the site. So I think what your letter, Mr. Supervisor, is you're requesting the town board approval to release that money?
No, what I'm looking for is the town board's approval to enter, to hold that money for completion of the landscaping plan.
To hold that money?
Upon acceptance of John Clancy submitting a letter acknowledging that.
Acknowledging what?
That those monies can be used to hold the landscaping, or to secure completion of the site improvements, which is basically the landscaping that's needed to be done out there.
Okay. So what do we have to do?
We need to acknowledge that we are going to be holding those funds for the landscaping, and that's about all we need to do. We need to acknowledge that we're holding those funds for the landscaping.
Okay.
Unless, Counselor, you have any other recommendations?
So the plan is to, for them to have be able to obtain their certificate of occupancy, but you're gonna hold the funds for the
We're going to hold the
landscaping,
funds.
correct?
Town board's going to secure the completion of landscaping at the site, subject to the project owner's submission of acknowledgement approving the use of these funds to secure said landscaping.
And that's consistent, just to note, that's consistent with the final site plan approval of the
Correct.
planning board.
I make a motion for the town board to approve what the supervisor just clarified from his letter dated December 16, 2019, relative to Clancy Properties and their site plan application. So moved.
Second.
Is everybody clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Next, we have court clerk stipend. Whereas the town board of the town of Patterson wishes to provide payment of a stipend to the justice court clerks for hours worked by them during justice court sessions. We have a pay plan that calls for a stipend based on, for each of our court clerks, based on a minimum of 2 hours of court time with a minimum of 40 transactions. So I'll make a motion that the town board approve the resolution as read relative to establishing the stipend for justice court clerks for the fiscal year 2020. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next, we have the annual standard day resolution. Be it resolved that the town of Patterson, location code 30394, hereby establishes the following as the standard for workdays for its employees and will report days worked to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on its timekeeping system as of January 1st, 2020, and it lists all the positions, titles of the folks who work here. So I'll make a motion that the town board approve the standard workday resolution for employees, town of Patterson, for 2020. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Earlier tonight, I made mention when we were talking about Putnam Lake that there are other projects that we need to look at, different stormwater projects. The board may recall that a couple of meetings ago, we authorized 2 companies to do assessments, or I'm sorry, appraisals, not assessments, appraisals of a piece of property that the town is looking at possibly purchasing. And that parcel, 11 Valley Road, we got the appraisals back from Barbara Bershears and Peter Fluchier, and everyone has a copy of the map. This property would be...
Nobody has a copy of the
Oh,
map.
I thought...
Oh, you do?
They do. No, we all have a copy.
Never mind.
This is a piece of property that, together with other pieces that the town already has acquired or may possibly acquire, will benefit us for some significant stormwater improvements that Rich has been working on. So we're at the point where we need to make a reasonable offer to the current owner. Based on the appraised values, Rich and I were talking earlier, and
Without saying a
without saying the
price.
price, because that would, but we are in a position to make an offer on this 11 Valley Road. So I would like to make a motion to authorize the town supervisor to reach out.
Why don't we talk about the price in
do
executive
that?
session?
Okay.
And we can come out from executive session.
Okay.
But everybody's got a copy of the map, so they can see the parcel we're talking about with the star.
Easier on this one.
And that's really all we need, but just so we have full disclosure out here, I'm gonna ask the town board to potentially consider allowing me to send a letter to the adjacent property owner
We already own this one.
and make him an offer as well,
Yeah.
and see if we can just pick up the whole area.
Okay. Which would be great.
Based on the appraisal prices we've got back in, you know, for me, if we can pick these parcels up and use them for stormwater at these prices, it's a steal.
Yeah, these parcels are like 7,000 square foot, they're not, these are tiny parcels that aren't usable for anything. A lot of times we get these parcels offered
Yeah,
to
vacant.
us because they go up for taxes, because people realize, why am I paying taxes on a useless piece of property, essentially? And so when we have the ability to pick these parcels up, and when they're a parcel that can be utilized for stormwater, we typically have in the past. We've picked up quite a few just over the last 4 or 5 years. So, okay, let's discuss that in executive session. Next item, Rich was kind enough to put on is just a quick update on the boardwalk project. I can't remember how many updates we've done on this, but suffice it to say that we started around Thanksgiving week. I want to certainly thank my brother who volunteered, or I don't know if he was voluntold, but either way, my older brother and his 2 sons helped out. I've had Rick Ciricelli, the park caretaker, Miss Lori Taylor from the Soil and Water Board at Putnam County has helped out, and we even had someone who stopped by this weekend from the Putnam Land Trust, Bill Knoll, who stopped by and helped out for a little while. We have, in the last 2.5 weeks, constructed a little over 200 lineal feet of boardwalk. Rich actually printed out a photo that I sent him. You would not recognize the place on Sunday because it was completely flooded out. And the picture, if I can pass this back and forth to the board, shows that we probably selected our elevation for the boardwalk appropriately, because the water was just up to within a few inches of the bottom of the boardwalk. And I'm proud to say that we've completed what we intended to do this calendar year. We're at a point now where I think we're done for the season, and we will resume probably in March or April when spring starts to break. And so phase 1 is nearly complete. We're looking at the remainder would be the handicap ramp, which we're waiting for some grading work to be done. We are getting some donations from Peckham. They're donating 5 truckloads of various size gravel that we can use to build up the base to reduce the amount of slope on our ramp that will be placed in the spring. So the next step, as I see it, is meeting with the planning team. We're going to meet right after the new year to strategize on essentially phase 2, which we're hoping be a rather large platform with handrails and benches and some signage that the Friends of the Great Swamp will be working on. I met with them last week, I believe, for one of their executive board meetings. They're going to start to key in on what they'd like to educate the public about the Great Swamp, and they, I think, feel they'll have very good success reaching out to donors from the community to sponsor a sign, if you will. And we're going to strategize also on the additional funding that will be needed to complete the project, which will be the platform and then connectivity back to the existing trail system. So if you're able-bodied, you'll be able to walk the loop and do not only boardwalk, but also some trails that exist out there now. If you are, wheelchair bound or not wanting to walk on ground, then you'll be able to go out and turn around and come back on the handicap accessible portion. This
Paul, can you
picture,
get that?
This picture was just taken on Sunday. Again, the water levels were incredibly high. And I went out there tonight, and the water's already back down to almost what it normally is. So we had a 2-foot fluctuation in water level in just 3 days. It was really significant. So again, the planning team will meet. We'll start to get some ideas for some fundraising activities and see what we're going to need to finish the project out in the spring. So we're looking forward to that, but we've had a great team of people. It's a project I'm really proud to be part of.
Well, Sean, I think that you're more than part of. I think it's your leadership, your initiative, right from the beginning to start this project and make it happen and have a plan to conclude it. So I think that everyone who uses the park will be very, very grateful to you for a very long time. So you're to be commended for your leadership on this project.
I appreciate that, really do. Thank you.
And physical work.
Physical work. Well, it's not too often on a town board that we get to work on projects that you can, walk on, touch.
Yep.
These are a lot of the work that we do that people don't realize what we're doing, and this is something that's really hands-on, and I've really enjoyed it. We also had some duck hunters that I enlisted one morning. They were coming out of the swamp, and I knew my brother's back wasn't feeling too well, and I said, would you guys mind just to help? And they jumped right in. We're happy to do so, and saved us a ton of work, helped us carry some heavy timbers downstream, and we really, it takes lots of great people to make a project come together, and it's been, so far, it's been really great, and I'm looking forward to completing it in the spring.
So I want to echo Charlie's sentiments that you've done a phenomenal job out there. This project was started with about $6,000 in a grant. For the materials, there have been no taxpayer funds spent. And, you put in all the labor with, a few volunteers, mostly from your family. But it was only phase 1, we know that. We're still looking to do phase 2, and we are certainly looking for additional funding to do phase 2. Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost the town to finish this?
Something less than $1 million. Probably, no, I'm joking. Probably, we're thinking it's going to be somewhere between probably somewhere around between $6,000 and $8,000 is what we're figuring to get the platform and then the connectivity back, because we've spent around $7 so far, I think. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I have a check here from Rick and Gail Saracelli to help you along in finishing this project up.
Wow.
In the amount of $5,000.
Wow. That's awesome.
So,
Well, I know Rick has been energized by this project. He has been there right along, side me, and I know it's something that speaks to what he's been so appreciative in the town and having this position for so long, working with the town on the park. And it's a project that he actually got me energized about. So I'm not surprised that when we were talking this weekend, he was very concerned about making sure this project made it to the completion, to the finish line. So I think it's too kind, but I understand where Rick's coming from, and I think this is really, really going to go a long way and be spent very frugally and conservatively towards getting this project done. So really humbled by this, really humbled. Very, speaks to the type of people that Rick and Gail are. They mean a lot to this town, and this town means a lot to them. So this is fantastic. Rick and Gail, we'll have lots of conversations with them, but this is really unbelievable, really is. So thank you.
You don't get to keep it.
No, we're handing it right back to Trish is in the other room. So great. Well, we'll keep everybody in the loop, and if you haven't been out there to check it out, I know some of us have, and appreciate the kind words, Bruce. And so thank you. Thanks for all the kind words.
So I would like to make a motion that we accept the gift and donation from Richard and Gail Saracelli in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Now we can send them a letter.
Very nice. Last, we have, the town finds ourselves in a position where we need to potentially find a new engineer to help serve the town for our planning board, for our different proposals that need technical review. We have worked for quite a while with Ron Gaynor, and I think we've just come to a point where maybe we and he are looking for a new relationship, and so we need to send out a request for proposals. It obviously is time sensitive because we have a lot of work that our planning board and our building department has that need review. So Rich has prepared a packet for general engineering services, and the proposal would be due back January 7th. So again, this is somewhat timely. So I think we need to move this right out. We're already December 18th, and
Oh, yeah.
we need to
I've
get
already got a
somebody
list
on
of
this.
engineers to send this to,
Okay.
and have been talking in the community.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the town supervisor to send out the request for proposals for, town clerk, I'm sorry, for general engineering services. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, other business. Any town board member have any other business? It's not like we don't have one or two items sitting
Well,
there.
We have a request from our town clerk to approve a 5-year contract with Pitney Bowes with regard to the postage machine. Pitney Bowes contract. The monthly billing of $178 or a quarterly billing of $534. And is this internet directly with Pitney Bowes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. So, 16, how have we been paying this monthly? No, quarterly, right?
It's quarterly we pay it. It's,
All right, I'll make a motion that the town board approve contract between the town of Patterson and Pitney Bowes with regard to the new postage machine located at Town Hall on a payment schedule, a 5-year contract on a payment schedule of $534.36 per quarter.
You want to authorize me to sign it?
And if he's busy, that we still ask the supervisor to sign off. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone else want to pick any of this up?
Oh. Go ahead.
All right, so we've got a couple of other things to talk about real quick. Every year we go into a contract with M-Star for the periods that they end up riding our ambulance, which turns it into an ALS ambulance, and we compensate them. The agreement that you have before us is identical in cost. Look at the cost. $312.67 every time that an M-Star employee rides our ambulance, but we then bill that ambulance as an ALS ambulance, so it is a benefit to us. It's also a benefit to working with M-Star on this. It is identical to the agreement that we've had for the past few years. There's no changes and there's no increase in the cost. So I'd like to
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ALS-BLS Joint Ambulance Service Agreement between the Town of Patterson and the Empire State Ambulance Corp. DBA M-Star for an amount of $312.67 per ride. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a couple of resolutions which the board has. I didn't have them on tonight's agenda because I hadn't, at that point, heard back from the fire department, so I didn't put the fire department contracts on the agenda, but we do have two resolutions here. And having heard from representatives of each respective fire department, I'd like to move these resolutions. The first resolution is a renewal of the agreement with the Putnam Lake Fire Department for fire protection services, and I'd like to ask the resolution get entered into the minutes as though read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the second is a resolution for the renewal of the agreement with the Patterson Fire Department number 1. I'd like to also ask that, move this resolution and ask that it be entered into the minutes as though read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next to last, we have a memo to the town board from our deputy town clerk asking, where is it, that the remaining vacation hours, 58 hours, be paid out. I'd like to make a motion to pay out our deputy town clerk her remaining vacation hours. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I have,
Can I, what about, what's that?
we don't have to do the sick time.
All
Sick,
right,
right?
I'm just-
Sick time is automatic. It's a state requirement. There was a mistake made on one of the vouchers. It was approved for an inappropriate fund. It was approved for A 1420.440. It should have been allocated to A 1420410. So I'd like to make a motion to make that correction. This is for actually a Hogan and Rossi invoice. So all in favor? Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last thing I have tonight.
Oh, wait a minute, we've got these budget transfers.
Oh, that's right. We got more budget transfers.
As promised.
Trish. It's because they have to sign them. These are the ones to
Yeah, I
sign.
have one.
Yeah,
Which ones are we signing?
this is the one to sign here.
No, we just
All right.
pull them together here.
As promised, we have half a dozen more budget transfers. And the first one involves the Patterson Fire District reference removal charges. We're moving money from the workman's comp insurance to the fire contractual reference removal account, $7,200. The next one we have is budget transfer general fund, town council, special council, traffic court. Moving money from the town council line, engineering contractual line, to special council, traffic court council expense accounts in the amount of $7,500. We're moving money from general fund, justice court building contractual, from justice court building contractual, utilities, and contingent account to justice court building contractual expense accounts. The amount is $3,500. Next, we have budget transfer Dorset Hollow Water District, water administration contractual. We're moving money from water administration equipment and capital outlay to water admin contractual expense account in the amount of $3,300. Next, we have budget transfer with regard to Fox Run Water District source of power contractual. We're moving money from the water admin contractual account to the source of power contractual expense account, the amount of $1,000. I'll make a motion that the town board approves budget transfers 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good news, Charlie, no more transfers for this calendar year.
So be it. That's it, I guess.
Board member have anything else? So life is generally a series of journeys, and as one journey ends, another one will begin, I am sure. But tonight is Antoinette Copaig's last meeting. So I'm sure it's very bittersweet that, you know, you were starting a new journey. But at the same time, you're not going to have to come out on these cold nights and hang out with us,
Ouch.
especially
I'm
with
gonna miss it.
with the executive session. Antoinette has been with the town for 35 years in various capacities, and I just want to say that we are going to miss you tremendously, but we wish you well. And we certainly weren't going to let you run away without at least giving you something to remember us all by.
Thank you
So
very
we did
much.
go get you a plaque that you can hang on the wall and collect dust.
Yeah, I have to get a wall to put it on.
Got a wall to put
I'm not sure.
Thank you very
So,
much, but
you're welcome.
all of you, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I will open it up to the public for any comments. Any member of the public wishes to be recognized, please approach the mic and give your name. Going once. Can I get a motion to go to executive session?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Thank you all for coming.